Would it be right to say that after BFSI, in terms of scale, it's ER&D that employs maximum talent in the GCC world? So in this episode of Exfino's GCC Talent Podcast, we thought it would be only apt to understand the talent context of ER&D. Why ER&D? Because in India's GCC ecosystem today, ER&D is sort of dominated or heavily influenced by automakers and possibly their service providers. So in what's happening in the auto world globally, we know that there are multiple contexts at play. There is the EV revolution that's happening on one side, and two, there is an uprise in Chinese automakers like BYD. Not only is BYD challenging the global automakers at their home turf, because we all know that China is the largest auto market in the world today, BYD is also challenging the global automakers at their home turf. When I last looked at the numbers of BYD, their last year's total sales of that 40% came from international sales, which means that they are sort of challenging everybody outside of China as well. So which also has put brakes on how some of these companies operate in terms of costs, in terms of how they look at various aspects of their strategies. And having huge presence in India, it's important to understand what are they dealing with at this point of time and how are they going about it when it comes to talent, because GCCs are nothing but a concentration of their talent and highly valuable talent. And how do they react, especially when they have long product and capex cycles? So we studied 102 ER&D GCCs. In that, we wanted to understand, is there any patterns coming out? So what did we see? So when we looked at the 102 ER&D GCCs, what we saw is they totally have about close to 379,000 workers. That means that 379K workers there, which is almost like, if you round it off to 4 lakh, it is 20% of the total GCC workforce. Remember, BFS has about 5,500,000 workers. So that's 25% is 20%, very close in terms of scale. And in terms of locations, clearly Bangalore has about 25% of the ER&D GCC units are in Bengaluru, followed by Pune, which has 17% of the units. Delhi NCR is 16% and Chennai 14%. However, when it comes to the spread of workforce, we said Bengaluru has not only 35%, but the next order changes. For example, next is Chennai at 15% of the workforce, unlike Pune, which had maximum number of units there. And Delhi NCR comes 14% in terms of workforce and Pune at about 11%. What else did we see? I think for us, the critical aspect we saw in terms of the scale of headcount is over the last 12 months, the headcount growth in these GCCs, ER&D GCCs, was just about 1%. And at the same time, they had churn. They had 10% churn. Remember, many of them had put brakes. There were, pauses on increments, bonuses payout. So there was churn. At the same time, they didn't add people. So that's one part to remember. The second part is we looked at, is there a change between how they are divided when it comes to tech and non-tech? We know that, ER&Ds in India have a concentration of tech workers and also GBS. So when we wanted to look at them, we saw that 59% of the workforce is engineering and tech, and about 30% is GBS. In both these, we saw churn of about 10%, again a net gain of only 1% when it comes to workforce. So net, what are we saying? We are saying that, look, Bengaluru possibly has the highest concentration of units when it comes to ER&D, highest number of workforce. At the same time, we didn't see much of a growth over the last 12 months when it comes to the workforce addition, which we saw in BFSI. In spite of being 25%, BFSI saw a 5% workforce growth over the last 12 months. So we understand there is a global headwind and the companies are sort of reacting to it by controlling the hiring that they're doing. But also on the other side, we also know many of these ER&D units are also piloting AI and championing AI. It's a good time to see whether they can optimize their workforce that they already have to, take the benefit of the AI to their global parents. So that's what we found out of studying these 102 ER&D GCCs. Like I said, about close to 4 lakh workforce, 1% growth, 10% churn. So by and large, you can call it stable. At the same time, there are headwinds. So thank you for tuning into Exfino's GCC Talent Podcast once again. Until we meet again, bye-bye.